AMAC is the leading conservative advocacy and benefits organization. AMAC gives you access to exclusive benefits, insightful news, and a magazine full of uncensored content. They are pushing back against efforts to defund the police, weaken the borders, and corrupt our youth. But they need your help. Please stand with AMAC at amac.us. That's amac.us.
MikeSlater.locals.com. Thank you to Bill for letting me fill in it and for you for listening. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Birkenstock Footwear has set the standard for footwear, and Dreyer's Shoe Store now carries a great selection of Birkenstock sandals. Whether you've never worn Birkenstock footwear before or you're already a raving fan, don't miss out on the arch support and the contoured footbed that conforms to the shape of your foot. Their flexible, durable, lightweight soles are repairable and replaceable. Find them at Dreyer's Shoe Store, your footwear fix since '56, downtown on North 9th by the Blue Note.
It's probably the most exciting.
what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
What happened with Hunter Biden is that the FBI weighed in to make sure a story didn't break for the 2020 election. We now have whistleblowers at the FBI telling Senator Grassley that they were told to slow down and back off Hunter Biden. If there's a prosecution of Donald Trump for mishandling classified information after the Clinton debacle, which you presided over and did a hell of a good job, there'll be riots in the streets.
So Lindsey Graham did say that there'll be riots in the streets. Who didn't say that, by the way? Josh Hawley. There were tweets claiming Josh Hawley said there will be riots, our Missouri senator. There will be riots if Trump is arrested. He didn't say it. However, Lindsey Graham, in effect, did. More fallout. Redacted statements came out on Friday. And then what was even better than that, all the memes that came out. Trump posted on his Truth social media. He said, here's my statement regarding... and it's all redacted. What a sense of humor, man. Really nothing in there. Look, and I was telling somebody, I spoke at the Columbia Pachyderms on Friday, and right as I was going in, the documents were coming out, and got up and said, well, you know, these things are coming out. I haven't had a chance to go through them yet. Somebody in the meeting said, I've been through them, and it took me like a minute and a half.
There were full pages that were redacted.
There's nothing in there. Nothing. So two of our senators making news this weekend as it relates to really some of the biggest stories that do impact us locally, especially as we talk about student loan forgiveness. Matter of fact, Trey Faucheux, he is with the Mizzou College Republicans. He's in studio with us 7:35. I imagine he carries student debt. He's going to be joining us 7:35. You got a college kid who's with the Mizzou College Republicans. I think a unique perspective. Hopefully it's still... the perspective is still the same as the perspective I think that we all have here. I hope it's because I don't know. I don't ask these people beforehand, by the way. We don't say, hey, we're going to have you on as long as you agree with what the sentiment on the show is. We don't do that.
That's boring.
No. So I don't quite know what his take is. Hear it coming up, 7:35, a college kid, Mizzou College Republicans, his take on student debt forgiveness. Our other senator making big news this weekend, Roy Blunt, on with George Stephanopoulos, and they kept talking about the documents, the raid, the redactions. I was shocked to hear George Stephanopoulos actually agreeing with our longtime outgoing Senator Roy Blunt.
We hadn't been told there was a problem, and that this has been going on for months.
Senator, there
was a problem. The Oversight Committee should have been told.
That's a fair point.
You're right. Oversight Committee should have been told about the. You're right. And then Roy Blunt goes. Roy Blunt is to George Stephanopoulos in effect as John Marsh is to Dick Morris. Did you hear this, Marsh? So, really, there's Yeah. So remember, Stephanopoulos was the Clintons' lapdog for a long, long time. Now a host as an impartial journalist, and I'm being facetious when I say impartial journalist on ABC's morning show. He's asking Roy Blunt about the redaction, the raid, and shouldn't have Trump done this? And they're going on for several minutes, and then. Check this out.
Can you say whether that was right or wrong? Do you believe it was right for the president to take those documents to Mar-a-Lago?
He should have turned the documents over and apparently had turned a number of documents over. George, what I wonder about is why this could go on for almost 2 years and less than 100 days before the election. Suddenly we're talking about this rather than the economy or inflation or even the student loan program you and I were going to talk about today.
Well,
Well,
so apparently, Blunt taking notes from the Dick Morris, John Marsh interview. I love that he says, wait, George, you invited me on here to talk about this. And yeah, okay, I don't mind answering. I am a sitting U.S. Senator. Sure, you can ask me about some other things, but when you're spending, you go on to these talk shows on these national news affiliates, you have 3, sometimes 5 minutes. Occasionally, you're granted more time. And you say to somebody, Dick Morris, we want to invite you on to talk about why you think Trump is going to win in 2024. And then John Marsh asks him about his huge failed calling of the 2012 race when he said Mitt Romney was going to win. But, of course, we all know the hurricane. And in by the way, if you missed that, you got to. I think it was Wednesday's show. I think 7:00 hour. And you can always check out Wake Up Mid-Missouri's podcast anytime you want. You can go back and hear the show in case you missed something, and it is commercial free, by the way. You can go on to KWOS or 98.3.9 The Eagle 7:00 hour Wednesday. Hear the interview that we did with Dick Morris, who was also I won't say he was a Clinton lapdog, but at one point George Stephanopoulos said the only person who has more power than Clinton in this country, Dick Morris. And so he visited with us last Wednesday in the exchange between Dick Morris and John Marsh. Oh, my goodness. Insane. So the redaction stuff, yeah, not a whole lot in there. The best part about that, all the memes floating around on social media over the weekend. Student loan forgiveness, still a hot topic, and still, as a matter of fact, Fox News is now doing a countdown. Day 6, no explanation from the White House on how we're going to pay for almost up to $500 billion in student loan forgiveness. Not saying how they're going to pay for it. I always say, listen, I'm going to run for mayor of Holt Summit, man. And my plan is everybody at the end of the year, every resident in Holt Summit gets $1,000. It's a great idea, right?
Right.
Lovely idea. But how do you pay for it? And that's where the White House is right now. No word on how they are going to pay for it. Please do join us, 7:35, Trey Faucheux, Mizzou College Republicans. Please join us for that. Should be interesting. He is here at 7:35. And, of course, you will be able to watch by going to our YouTube channel.
Wake Up in Missouri.
You can watch there anytime, all the time. And you will see that one Ms. Stephanie Bell is dressed in a nice, I'd say, leopard print and hearts or something today. How are you today?
I'm good. Good morning.
Highlight of your weekend?
It was the rodeo.
Yeah. How huge was that?
It was huge turnout. It sold out on Saturday night. There were some traffic issues I heard about from Hannah, but the whole place was packed. And it's been away for 2 years because of COVID. So a big celebration with the rodeo coming back. So many volunteers out there at parking and logistics and everything else. It took, a monumental effort to get that event going and to do it successfully, and they did a great job.
Pretty massive undertaking and a good time, just a fun time to be out. And we needed something like that because, man, the student loan forgiveness, I hope, and I'm guessing if you're a regular listener to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, you know how big of a deal this is. You know how dangerous this is. And if you're newer, cannot stress enough this idea of student loan forgiveness. And don't take us for callous SOBs. That is not it. The idea that you're just going to give all this money. We're going to forgive $10,000 in student debt for a large number of people who took out loans, signed a piece of paper that said, hey, yes, I will pay this back. The message it sends, nah, don't worry about it. You don't have to pay it all back. It's dangerous, irresponsible. And then how do you pay for it? I don't know. And then the timing. The midterms, less than 3 months from now, and Joe out campaigning around the country. Look at what we did. And look at what you did. That's funny. He keeps going out and they're campaigning and all these Democrats campaigning. Look at what we did. Like it's an accomplishment. My God, they're too stupid to even know that that is not an accomplishment at all. Producer Hannah, what was the highlight of your weekend?
I got to hold a sleeping baby for like 2 hours.
Aww.
Got to hang out with my 10-month-old nephews on Saturday, and my boyfriend and I kind of tag-teamed nap time. So I got to see him hold a sleeping baby, which was super cute. And I got to hold a sleeping baby. And then yesterday, I went to the Fall Bridal Spectacular at the Capitol Plaza Hotel in Jefferson City. That was a good time with my mom and mother-in-law.
Did you get a bunch of ideas?
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean ideas about having kids as quickly as you can. Because listen, I'm a 51-year-old dude, John, and every time I hold a baby, I'm like, oh, I could have some more. And then I'm 51. I don't want to do that.
I've seen you pretty dramatically kill a houseplant. I'm not sure that a child would be... Yeah, I'm not sure a child would be a very good idea.
The hockey game in Jefferson City, I thought that was really cool. And, John, they did it for, they honored Erin Gabathuler, who had a heart of gold, according to her father. They did a special thing earlier this week. Jefferson City Police Department doing stuff for her. Apparently this woman, who is a first responder, by the way, just spent her life helping folks. Like 700 people at that hockey. Cops, but...
Yeah, what the heck, Marsh? How come you weren't on the ice Saturday night? Yeah. I mean, there were plenty there.
So yesterday, new laws going into effect in Missouri. One of them has to do with voting. Voter ID. You got to show a photo ID. And I think that our Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft, and he says it here on the show all the time, telling ABC 17 again recently, because here's what's going around. People say, oh, voter. And by the way, this is becoming a national thing. People say, they're taking away our right to vote. They're making it harder to vote. And if there is a red wave, which I'm not so sure about at this point in time, frankly, if there is a red wave, all these Republicans are going to get elected and they're going to take away our right to vote. I have no idea where they're getting from it. And you know where I see all this? On Twitter and on Facebook. I thought they were clamping down on misinformation, because that is misinformation. Voter ID laws do not hinder your ability to vote.
Well, and in some of the states where people have been the loudest, they had some of the highest voter turnout in the last election.
Look at Georgia, I think, was a great example. One of the first states to put into effect voter ID laws. And they had huge voter turnout. Jay Ashcroft reiterating this is BS.
It's false. It does not make it harder to vote. If they're registered, they can vote. They're hearing people saying this or that. The truth of the matter is, if you're registered, go to your polling place on election day and you can vote. We want people to trust the election.
We want people to trust the election, which is incredible, because the people that are saying, oh, this is going to hinder our ability to vote, it's voter suppression, those are all lies. Right? And Jay Ashcroft, he will help you get one. Call the Secretary of State's office. They will make sure you get the records. Because, listen, that bureaucratic stuff, it's a pain in the... It really is.
I had to show a photo ID to get my daughter's ears pierced. Seriously. You can...
They're trying to keep Stephanie down, trying to prevent her from getting her daughter's ears pierced. Did you throw a fit? Did you start a petition? Did you go to your local state lawmaker and says, this is BS?
Sure didn't.
Right, because it's just showing an ID, and it's not that big of a deal. Other Missouri laws went into effect. We're going to come into that coming up about 6:35 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Something we can do for you. 573-874-9390. 874-9390. By the way, that same phone number that you call into, 874-9390, you can also text. Same text number. We got a big old texter here in the Wake Up Mid-Missouri studios that we can see. Coming up, we are going to open up the circus tent, see what's in the daily DC rundown with Stephanie Bell.
You know, I'm all allowing people with
I think it's definitely changed the complexion of the midterm some. I don't know how big. Look, I've always taken the position of rape, incest, life of the mother, and, certain weeks up until 15 weeks or whatever. And that was actually a fairly common thing in the Republican Party.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger, the Republican from Illinois. That gets us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
A lot of folks that are skeptical about a red wave in November are talking about the enthusiasm gap, and really it comes down to voter turnout and how invigorated are people to actually show up to the polls. And the worry and the concern is that with the various state decisions on abortion following Dobbs, that this is invigorating Democrats to actually turn out to the polls and is kind of changing the landscape. So in North Carolina, for example, they went to court over a state restriction on abortion. The federal judge went ahead and allowed the state law to go into effect. And now North Carolina Democrats are saying, hey, this is kind of a blessing in disguise. Even though we don't like getting this abortion restriction, it is really angering our base, and it's going to turn people out to the polls. Their, specific provision does not have exceptions for race or incest. One Democrat said it's giving Democrats renewed optimism about the fall.
As a matter of fact, got an email a couple of weeks after the Dobbs decision from, it was either rock the vote or get out the vote, and said in Missouri in the 2 weeks prior to Dobbs and then the couple of weeks following the Dobbs decision, like a 1,200% increase. Now, real numbers there said about 200 people register in any given week in Missouri. And they said following that, it was 1,000 plus.
Not enough to make any sort of difference.
Not in a span of 2 weeks. In a span of 2 months, you're talking well over 1,000 people a week. I don't know if that'd make a difference either. But, by the way, several states, including Kansas, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Idaho, Oklahoma, numerous states saw a huge increase in the number of females registering to vote. That, according to the New York Times.
Sure. Well, the military is also struggling with staffing shortages, like small business and police forces and everything else. They are lowering their standards. Apparently,
Broadening your horizons.
There's a guy who failed the academic test more than 10 times. And he still gets another chance, chance number 11. There's a new Army program that if you were lower performing, they're going to give you 90 days of academic or fitness instruction. So not necessarily lowering the standards, but they're going to help you pass the test. I don't think I like this.
Yeah, that's a little frightening. Hey, I appreciate the military and what it can do as it relates to second chances, but broadening your horizons, or maybe in this case, lowering the standards is too much. A little frightening. Coming on, let's get into some of those new Missouri laws that went into effect yesterday. We'll do that 5 minutes from now here for you on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
As I'm going door to door, running into a lot of independent people that are frustrated right now with the direction our country's going, especially with some of the high gas prices, high inflation, and maybe some of them voted for Biden and are really concerned about that and thinking about switching. And let's vote for Republican candidates that are more common sense, looking at how our economy can move forward and how we can build jobs, things like that. We're definitely seeing that.
That's 47th State District Representative candidate John Martin. He's running to fill the seat that Chuck Basie, current state rep, the seat that he is leaving. By the way, special session is next week?
Next week, yeah.
Wow. So Chuck Basie will be busy there. John Martin busy campaigning for that 47th district seat. And again, all these districts have kind of shifted a little bit. And a lot of these, what we would say, really strongholds for people like Sarah Walsh and people like that, they're not quite the strongholds anymore. And I hope, I hope people get out and vote. I was really, maybe it's just me. I spoke at the Columbia Packeter meeting Friday, but I was shocked at how low our voter turnout was. I get it. It was just a primary, but earlier this month, 21-ish% Boone County. I mean, as much as people talked about our U.S. Senate race,
shockingly low turnout.
Okay, so because usually sometimes I'm wrong on these things, but no. I feel strongly about that. John Martin, superb candidate. Like, you couldn't check the boxes any harder. Sometimes you just check, and then sometimes when you put in a check mark, you're very deliberate. Check. John Martin.
Yeah, I got to hang out with him at the state fair. He was up there. But yeah, I mean, I am of. I really like business owners as politicians. I really like someone who has been in business, who understands business, who understands budgeting, and that, money doesn't just grow on trees. I think, that kind of logical, reasonable, common sense. Yeah, exactly. Helps. And so, I'm hopeful for him. But you're right, his district pushed up north, and if you're just looking at how it's voted in the past, it's gonna be a close one.
Marsh, how many people in the business sector do you think Joe consulted before he said, hey, let's do $500 billion in loan forgiveness? What do you think that number is? Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Mr. John Marsh is here. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, Brian Houseworth. My name is Branden Rathert. And before we move on from John Martin, he is all about backing the blue. As a matter of fact, he shows up to the Columbia Citizens Police Review Board meetings. Where, by the way, that review board, they've had 3 people leave that board this December. And it's because of the person who thinks that she's running the thing. Her name is December Harmon. And she does not understand the role of what a Citizens Police Review Board does. It's to be kind of a conduit. And when cops are wrong, you call it out and you act on behalf of the public. And vice versa, you are to be the same thing, I believe, from police to the public. And she doesn't do that. She is out to get the cops. And John Martin, man, he's always out there promoting. He will show up sometimes on, like, Police Appreciation Day. Shows up with goodies and stuff like that. I think that's cool. And as you know, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, I sport a Back the Blue bracelet. My sister is a police chief. And that's all first responders. Producer Hannah, very tight with the first responder.
You could say that, yes. My fiance is a firefighter in the big city of California.
And a volunteer firefighter. Bonus points for being a volunteer firefighter, what they have to do while keeping a regular job and keeping a blossoming family. They do a lot, man.
Don't start any rumors, please.
By the way, I heard something really cool about, can we call Gail Blomenkamp, Boone County Fire Protection District, Boone County, you talk about gems here in mid-Missouri. That the Task Force 1, I think it is. Mm-hmm. These folks travel all across the country. Whenever they were recently in Kentucky for the flooding. They go all across the country. Cherie Tolson Rice, local state rep, she's done. Yeah, let's call him. I want to tell him something. She has done a lot over the years procure and make sure they have funding to go and help our fellow Americans, no matter what part of the country she is in. And hello, Mr. Blomenkamp.
This is him. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. It's Branden, Steph, John Marsh, Brian Hausworth, producer Hannah. Wake up, Mid-Missouri. You're on air. Is that cool?
That's fine with me, sure.
All right. Hey, I got to tell you something, man. There is an employee actually within the Zimmer family, and we get to chatting the other day, and she's relatively new. And I said, what did you do before you came here? And she says, well, I was a 911 operator. And I said, really? In what county? She said, Boone County. And I said, oh, man, our news director, Brian Hausworth, got to tour that facility several months ago and learned even more. And I know, but the work that 911 operators do and the stresses that they go through and their job, you think about this, put yourself in their place for a minute. You got a headset, several computer screens, plus a huge bank of monitors all across this room, which looks like it could be in the White House. That's how wired up this thing is. I mean, what they have to do, prioritizing, determining what the situation is, dispatching the appropriate first responders, just amazing. And unsolicited, Gail, I got to tell you, and she said, yeah, and our chief would come in once in a while just to congratulate us. And I said, was it Gail Blomenkamp? And she said, yeah. And I thought that was really cool. Attaboys, no matter what your profession is, attaboys in any line of work, I think is awesome. But especially because I think we have a tendency, I should speak for myself, to forget about the monumental work that 911 operators put forward. And
absolutely.
I just got to say, I think it's cool that you do that, and I think that our Mid-Missouri community should know that you go into that building once in a while and you say, hey, guys, good work. Tell us about before we let you go, like one of the biggest challenges 911 operators face.
So when I first moved here from Colorado in 2003, that's where I started to work. And so I've been in their position. I've been in that room. I've done that job. And I tell you, it is much more difficult being inside that room than it is doing what I do outside that room. And so I have the utmost respect for those dispatchers. It is a very difficult thing to do. And I tell you, when the people call and they can reach that dispatcher that puts them on the comm and can get the right resources out there appropriately, it makes a big difference in those people's lives. Whether the outcome is exactly what they expected or not, it does make a difference. And again, we have the utmost respect for those dispatchers, and working with them and every day is just a partnership for the Boone County Fire District. And so that is very nice of somebody to say that. Is very humbling, because that is a very tough job that they do every day.
Well, your efforts apparently have not gone unnoticed from a former employee, Boone County Emergency Operations Center 911 operator. Man, thanks for letting us bug you, okay?
Oh, not a problem. I appreciate those compliments anytime. So call me whenever you get those.
Will. That's funny. I like that. Hey, man, anytime you hear something good about me, tell me. Let me know. I like the humility there. New laws going into effect yesterday in Missouri, voting. And I don't know when social media is going to stop the misinformation on that. These people say, oh, the voting ID, having to show an ID, it's going to clamp down on my right to vote. Absolutely, positively, without a doubt, does not do that. The other one is sexual images in school library books. And Stephanie and I, a couple of weeks ago, remember, there was a book, and I don't know that it was in any libraries here in Missouri, and I think the book was called Genderqueer. And there was another book called Don't Go in the Shower with Joe. Seriously. And right. I don't know. By the way, Donald Trump's campaign, they had an opportunity to buy that diary that apparently where the daughter alleged that Joe would make his daughter get in the shower with him. And apparently it was offered to the Trump campaign, and the Trump campaign said, no, thanks. We don't need to buy it. If you're not familiar, there's a diary that was uncovered. Joe's daughter was moving and somebody stole. They were convicted, I think, sentenced last week because they sold some stuff that didn't belong to them, including this diary, but they ended up selling it through the, who's the guy who's always out? James O'Keefe. That guy sold it to his organization. I think they got like $40,000 for this book, for this diary, in which she alleges that Joe made his daughter shower with him. But there is a book called Don't Go in the Shower with Uncle Joe. God. And I don't know if that came out before or after the revelations in that diary, but we looked at some pictures one time here on camera on our Wake Up Mid-Missouri YouTube channel. And I'm like, this is in school libraries? And I'm pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a whole new thing. It's called graphic novels. And that's like, for me, it was like comic books, but it seems like every book my kids, bring home is a quote unquote graphic novel. Now, this was a different kind of graphic novel. And so, I mean, it was a lot. And yeah, something that, I wouldn't want my kid to unknowingly pick up off of the shelf and see.
So, and I'm wondering, and of course there are some provisions, like when it comes to, and I'm not comfortable reading some of the language in the law on the stuff that it bans, but like literal acts of intimacy, self acts of intimacy, it bans, and we get into it. Funny, not funny, but I'm wondering about things like National Geographic, because it talks about genitalia, and I'm being serious here, like women's breast, is that considered genitalia? And I don't know, it's not. So does that mean that stuff is okay? I don't know. I'm
kind of a person about personal choice and independent thought. And so, as folks get older, I think you should have access to whatever you want, and that people are smart enough to, look and see things and read things that maybe you don't agree with or that are offensive, and you can discern for yourself. But I think we're talking about, younger kids. I think there's a line that needs to be drawn.
In schools, let mom and dad handle that at home if they want to. Coming up about 5 minutes from now, here on Wake Up. By the way, join us an hour from now. Trey Faucheux, he is with the Mizzou College Republicans. He's going to be joining us here in the Wake Up Mid-Missouri studios. Student debt forgiveness. Unique perspective, I think. College kid, but he's also smart. He's a conservative. What is his take on student debt forgiveness? He's going to be joining us about an hour from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up 5 minutes from now, there's a country superstar. You know this dude, his name's Jason Aldean?
I do.
Oh, yeah. Apparently he's big-time stuff. His wife
She trains at 6 a.m. every morning. She spent years working to shave off seconds. She's the captain of her school's team. He's just a mid-pack finisher. But not today. Unfortunately, this competition was over before it even began. Woke left-wing politicians are destroying girls' sports. Tell Biden and his radical allies, no men in girls' sports.
I wish we could show that on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri YouTube channel. You can watch our show. Yeah, you can watch it. Kind of interesting. Takes you behind the scenes, kind of get a glimpse nobody else gets to see. And you can watch on YouTube. You can also watch on our Facebook page. By the way, Steph and producer Hannah have been talking to Mark Zuckerberg. There's some couple of things going on right now with our Facebook page. I would say we're working on it. There ain't no we in this.
I've been trying to change the name for like a month now.
So if you've been on there and you said, well, it says Wake Up Columbia. This is a Columbia show. That's not, we're a Mid-Missouri show. So we're working on it. We just need some help from Mark. And incidentally, Dustin Stanton, I heard he was at the Ashland Rodeo over the weekend along with thousands of other people.
He was at the parade, yeah. So there was a big parade in the afternoon. And we, Connie Leopard and Cherie Tolson-Reich and Hunter Thomas from Scott Fitzpatrick's campaign. We took a big Boone County Republicans picture.
How cool.
It was fun.
Dustin Stanton, who also, him and his brother's remarkable story regarding their egg farm, small business. They started, I don't know, they were like 3 years old. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but started as very young kids in the Centralia area. And now Stanton Brother Eggs all over the place. Very cool what they do. He marks a pretty significant resemblance to Mark Zuckerberg. And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, I can see
a little bit. As a matter of fact, Mark Zuckerberg visited their farm, I think it was 3-4 years ago. Mark Zuckerberg, love, hate Facebook, doesn't matter. You cannot deny the successful businessman that he has been over the years. Mark Zuckerberg saw this egg farm in mid-Missouri and said, what are they doing there? He came here to tour their farm. Dustin Stanton, currently, I think, the lone Republican office holder in Boone County. Coming up, 7:35, we're going to be joined by Trey Faucheux, Mizzou College Republicans. He's in studio student debt forgiveness, unique perspective. Jefferson City Councilman Scott Spencer is here. Biggest challenges facing us here in mid-Missouri, specifically some of the biggest challenges facing Jefferson City as he sees it. Country superstar. His name is, I don't listen to a lot of country music, even though I used to work in country music.
So weird.
Twice.
And top 40, right?
And top 40. I'm kind of like Glenn Beck a little bit. Glenn Beck got his start in top 40 radio. He was he was on a legendary radio station in New York. I think it was WHTZ, top 40 station in New York. I don't know if his on-air skills for that format were legendary. But there's a country superstar named Jason Aldean. I don't listen to country music, but I heard of Jason Aldean. And his wife came under fire over the weekend.
She did. Apparently, she posted something about, like, I used to be a tomboy in my youth, and I'm so glad, even though I had a tomboy phase, my parents didn't change my gender. And people were really angry about that.
They got triggered.
really angry. And so while some country music stars said, yeah, that, we don't think parents should, change their kids' gender until they're old enough to be mature enough to understand that decision. Maren Morris, who I actually kind of like her music, but she said, sell your clip-ins and zip it, insurrection Barbie.
Oh, God.
Dang.
Man. Uncalled for. Good, but uncalled for. Settle down.
Insurrection Barbie. I mean, for me, that brings up two things. Basically, she tells her to zip it, and I think we've had this conversation before, where like liberals just don't feel like free speech is a thing, and all they want to do is shout you down and and ensure that you can't speak. And second, lumping anybody with any differing opinion into insurrection land, I think is wrong.
Crazy. Coming up a few minutes from now, here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You got to hear the new campaign ad for Democrats. You're going to love this, man. Hear it. The new ad for Trudy Bush Valentine. We're going to do that a little bit after 7 o'clock here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Integrity. It's time to listen, make no mistake. She'll listen to the people of the Show Me State. It's the right time, she's the right choice with a caring heart. She's a brand new voice, an inspiration for all to see. Show me Missouri, show me Trudy.
Had you heard that one yet, Hannah?
No, and I wish I hadn't.
Marsh, I'm glad I surprised you. Because I thought before the show, hey, we'll get together, and because I was going to say, Marsh, come here. I want you to hear this. But I'm glad we're getting your natural reaction.
For all to see. Show me Trudy.
And what she said about it was even worse. She said, I'm not sure if it's the song of the summer quite yet, but I wanted to share our new campaign anthem with you. Nope. There's a definition of an anthem, and that is not it.
Trudy Bush Valentine, Democratic nominee for Senate, state of Missouri, trying to take blunt seat.
It's the right time. She's the right choice with a caring heart. She's a brand new voice, an inspiration for all to see. Show me Missouri, show me Trudy.
Everybody all together now.
I feel bad that I can't remember who said this on Twitter, but they're like, that should be an in-kind campaign contribution to Eric Schmidt.
Listen, I'm one of the cheesiest people that I know. I enjoy cheesy jokes. I like cheesy, heartfelt things. That song ain't it.
There's some things, they're like a good kind of cheesy.
Not that. No.
That's not it.
I'm super hoping I'm super hoping for like a Eric Schmidt and like Nelly collab or something, right? Like I hope he hits back with something really cool.
Oh, points for Marsh already, and it's
maybe
only Monday.
John can get to mixing that one up.
How's it worth hearing the Trudy Bush Valentine campaign song? Did that make your oatmeal go down a little easier this morning?
It's the first I've heard of it, actually. Yeah, I know hadn't heard the song, so we'll see. It is going to be interesting to watch this race. Will the polls and again with John Wood getting out, it's going to be interesting to watch. We still got some time. I think the race for a lot of people, as far as paying attention, outside of our listeners are really into it, no question. But for the majority of people, probably after Labor Day, they'll start to pay attention more.
Sandy via text 874-9390 just says, oh my.
It's the right time. She's the right choice with a caring
I can see people like at a campaign event. Maybe she's at the Mizzou homecoming parade, Lincoln University homecoming day parade, and everybody's swaying in the crowd.
Or throwing up.
Birkenstock sandals, headbands.
Nope.
Right. It sounds like two guys clapping, and they're probably the one they're clapping at themselves. Look at this song we just made. Now, listen, and those gun ads between Greitens and Schmidt and any other conservative campaign across America. Now would be a good time for one of them badass gun campaign ads. For real. I was looking for polling. Hadn't seen anything recently, at least, that's been made available publicly on the polling in between. But do we all feel, we do, because we're most of us, for the most part, in an echo chamber, but I think we feel good about Eric Schmidt's chances of winning.
Yeah, I mean, in the state of Missouri right now, he is the odds-on favorite. There is no question about it. But again, I think the Republicans cannot take Ms. Valentine for granted. Yeah. I mean, she's campaigning in rural areas that a lot of Democrats have not campaigned in, and I know she's reached out to this Jess Piper up there in Maryville. For people who don't follow Piper, I'll tell you, she's got a huge following. Will she win? I don't know. She's running for a legislative race, but Valentine clearly is reaching out to some folks and campaigning in areas that traditionally Republicans have done very well in. Now, rural Missouri is still very red.
But if she can get a dent into some of those areas, she has a chance. But again, I think any polls, I'm not going to pay too much attention till after Labor Day, because a lot of people are still, that's when they usually start paying attention. And inevitably, those polls will tighten as we get closer.
As a matter of fact, we got folks, and listen, we support all of our local folks. Travis Fitzwater, anybody, these conservatives running for office here locally, Mr. Veet, all those people. But we're getting some folks, hey, we'd love to come on and, like, well, wait till after Labor Day. Oh, you mean like Tuesday after Labor Day? I'm like, no, like the month after Labor Day, like October maybe, because because we know their messages, and there's so much campaigning and so much ugly stuff, and we get it. That's part of the game, man. That's part of the game. It's like saying, well, in football, a 2-minute warning. Well, we know, but it's part of the game.
Yeah, it does look like Missouri Scout. There's a poll posted on Real Clear Politics from August 24th and 25th, and it was Remington Research Group, and that's showing Schmidt at +11.
Oh, sweet.
That's a pretty, and again, that's probably not to be expected, but again, I do expect that to tighten. One thing about, again, she was in Columbia, Ms. Valentine, over the weekend and opened an office, and I know she's been to Kansas City and into some of these rural areas as well. The Attorney General obviously has one thing that he has to deal with is he also is the Attorney General, so he's involved in court cases and stuff, and that may be limiting his campaign. But I expect him to be out, and hopefully both of them will continue to come through mid-Missouri.
Martian, have you heard anything? I know you spend a lot of time in the Capitol. Anything more to the rumors that Stephanie Bell could be the one replacing Eric Schmidt, that Governor Mike would appoint Stephanie Bell to be the Attorney General when Eric Schmidt wins? Street buzz you're hearing on that? And that's the truth. By the way, that's not something we're making up. Scott Fawn, who very tight Missouri politics, did an article and mentioned people like who replaces Eric Schmidt? Mentioned names like Kurt Schaefer, who used to be a local state lawmaker, some other folks. Stephanie Bell was in that article from Scott Fawn. I'm wondering, the other thing I'm wondering, I would love to see Trudy Bush Valentine, whether it be on this show or a national show. I would love to see her be asked this question.
Would you like to see him come down to campaign with you?
Him referring to Joe Biden, because now all of the MSNBC and CNN, every time they have these, I don't think MSNBC is doing it so much because they're afraid of the answer that they'll get. They're asking Democrats, as happened over the weekend on CNN. They're chatting with Florida. She's a Democrat candidate for a state race. Her name is Annette Taddeo. Asking, do you want Joe Biden to come campaign for you? You are a Democrat. Correct answer as always.
Of course.
Look, I know that I have my own campaign to win, and we will get lots of help from lots of people. But at the end of the day, I know that the way that I win this race is by.
She didn't answer. Spoiler alert. She didn't say yes.
She did answer it without answer. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. Florida is still very red in many ways, although those races tend to be tight. And one thing, if you look at Florida over the last, let's say, couple of years, the area around Miami, that area, and Stephanie, you've probably seen this, that area has really gotten red, and a lot of that has to do with the Cuban-American population, anti-Castro Cubans, and they've always generally voted Republican, but even more so in the last couple of years. In this last election cycle, they voted out a couple of Democratic congresspeople from that area.
I would say last 10 to 12 years, and Marco Rubio is responsible for that recent.
Yes, he's from that area too.
There's been a huge shift among Hispanics, and I think I heard it said best once where they said they love God, family, and hard work, and those are all conservative values, and it's been a big time shift.
Now, of course, there are other, Hispanics in the state of Florida, and some of them do vote Democratic, but definitely Miami's an area that Republicans have focused on. Marco Rubio, by the way, went to college for a year or two in Missouri, up in Tarkio, which the former Tarkio College, which has since closed. But yes, and then he eventually went back to Florida.
Wrote about it in his very first book. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You're hearing the voice there of Mr. Brian Houseworth. If you can hold just a second. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. If there is something that we can do for you, 573-874-9390. 874-9390. Somebody wants to know what is Greitens doing now. I don't know. But I do hiding. Yeah.
He's probably at Innsbruck, which is in Warrenton. I think
I went there this summer and I kept my eyes peeled for him.
Hey, so we're excited. We are bringing back the Tiger tailgates. You go to our website and you get free. Man, here's the deal: you go to places like in Columbia. You can go to Culligan of Mid-Missouri and Jefferson City. You can go to Big O Tires. You can go to places like in Mexico, Missouri. You can go to Graff and Sons. And typically, I think by like lunchtime Wednesday, we're going to try to put these out earlier since it's a Thursday prime time Thursday night game. But you get these free passes. And then you come to our Tiger tailgate. Starts about 2 hours prior to the game. Man, we food you. We drink you. It's a good time. You hang out with a bunch of people getting ready to go to the game. Prime time Thursday night. As a matter of fact, the highlight of my weekend, parking my car already up there in Providence. So I can get it. That's, I know, number one, the idea to bring more people into the stadium, have a winning program. And I know the athletic director who's just in the building here Friday. I know Eli Drinkwitz, everybody, they want to do that. And now they're saying, hey, what if we get students to sell tickets for us? Maybe we'll bring more people into the stadium. I will bet you. I don't know if this is $1 million bet or a Cece's steak dinner bet. Do something better with parking. Yeah. And I bet more people would go to the game.
Do you know the only time I've ever ridden the bus in Columbia? To a Mizzou football game. So you could park down here and then ride the bus get on the bus route. Brandon, come on.
Well, guess where? And they're putting buses this year. Guess where they're putting one of the buses for shuttle rides?
There's a couple of different, but Brandon and I looked at the Mizzou website, and I'll have more on this. Desiree was actually at the station the other day, and we'll have some of that audio tomorrow and Wednesday, Thursday. But it appears to me that where they're going to be picking up a lot of the people is at the Wabash station. that is where. Now those are some of the shuttles. Others are going to be picking up at the downtown garages. But the issue at the Wabash, if you're going there, is, there's a couple things. Number one is that there's not a whole lot of place to park there.
There are no places to park, and then the homeless thing. I mean, that's a whole thing right now. And now you want to say, hey, let's bring Mizzou fans and the little Mizzou kids in their orange and gold and their hats and everything. Where do you want us to pick you up? Take the shuttle.
The Wabash
bus station.
Yeah, and it's hard to find. Because it's hard on a normal day if I'm going down to court around there, much less a football game. So what they really also are saying, Brandon, your point is so well taken about the parking. They are saying Truman VA Garage will not be available on Thursday. So bottom line is, and I've never seen this happen, maybe our listeners have, but I've been around a while, so have you, Brandon. I've not seen this.
Is that an age joke?
we both have.
Don't forget about Marsh here.
He has, absolutely. But they're saying any employees at Mizzou in a non-public facing role who can work remotely on Thursday should leave campus at noon, which tells you they really want to get people off of that campus because it's just going to be. And can you imagine 70 and 63 anyway? I mean, it's going to be a busy day.
Parking, and I get it. Hey, let's take out parking and we put tailgaters in there. We make more money. I get it, but I bet you get more people in the ball games because having to park a couple of miles down Providence, a couple of miles down Stadium, and then having to walk, and all those people walking on busy highways, that is just insane.
And Stadium too.
And it's just not fun. And I get out and walk every day, by the way, for fun, but I do it out in nature. I don't want to be walking along Stadium Boulevard with traffic whizzing by.
I mean, capitalism. If you haven't signed up for Uber, it sounds like now's a really good time to sign up because you can cart some people to the game coming up here.
Thursday night, get your Tiger Tailgate tickets. Check out the websites and find out where you can go and pick up your tickets. Coming up, 7:25-ish, we are going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah. Something cool people might be talking about today.
Man, the hot dog story from last week.
Dude drinking beer through a hot dog at a ball game.
There's an update, and it's even worse.
All right, the stomach churning. What's Hot with Hannah? You might be Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:27.
Time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Man, I think I said last week that the hot dog story I covered in What's Hot with Hannah.
This was the guy videoed at, I think, Yankee Stadium or maybe Met Stadium drinking. He carved a hole out of his hot dog and then stuck his hot dog in the cup and was drinking out of it. He used it as a straw.
He was drinking a beer. He was drinking a beer with a hot dog. That's what he was doing. And I believe I said something along the lines of, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Uh-oh.
It didn't take very long for Oscar Mayer to top that one.
Oh, a marketing opportunity.
Yeah. I don't think it was a good one, but Oscar Mayer took it. They're teaming up with a company called Pop Bar, and they're releasing a hot dog flavored popsicle. And it comes complete with a fake drizzle of what looks like mustard.
Ugh.
It looks like you're eating a cold hot dog, and they are calling it the cold dog. And it's not just a frozen hot dog. It's like a sweet and salty flavored.
But they shaped it like a hot dog. Ugh.
Yeah. I don't understand why. Sometimes companies release these weird foods, and you just want to know what was going through the marketing team's heads.
Hey, I got an idea. Let's take a hot dog, and we'll just take a popsicle. We'll make the popsicle look like a hot dog, and people will eat it up.
It literally looks like you're eating a frozen hot dog.
I wonder it's sugar. You give it to the kids. Don't care what it looks like.
Probably not.
Yeah, sugar. I love that. What's hot? And that's on our Facebook page.
It is.
All right. You can check it out on Facebook. It's What's Hot with Hannah. We do it every time. Every morning, right about this time, step down a little bit, chill. Talk about it. Share that one with your friends at work today. Hey, did you hear what Hannah was talking about?
Ruin their days like I just ruined yours.
Ugh.
And watch all the reactions of your coworkers when you tell them about What's Hot with Hannah. Popsicle, a popsicle hot dog. Coming up, Mizzou College Republicans. Trey Faucheux is here. His take on student debt forgiveness. He's with the Mizzou College Republicans.
Was it appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden?
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course. You don't
but
follow
I mean,
this.
saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Well, then you would know about this.
So that's Bill Maher, and that meathead. And I'm not name-calling here because it's Rob Reiner, who, of course, famously played Meathead on All in the Family for a lot of years. Most people younger than myself know him as a movie director. So Rob Reiner on with Bill Maher, and they're talking about this whole thing like, hey, you know what the media did with the Hunter Biden story? And the Hunter Biden story is not just he was with hookers and doing crack cocaine and all that stuff. It was that he was, and remember all these big national news outlets, there's nothing there. And now they've all said, yeah, okay, yeah, it was kind of a thing, man. And we learned now, Mark Zuckerberg saying last week during an interview, the FBI came to him, said, hey, just so you know, there's going to be some stuff regarding Hunter Biden come out. Not a thing. FBI. But how many problems does the FBI have right now?
They have a lot.
And the FBI is saying, well, it's routine. It's routine for you to go to a social media company and say, hey, there's some stuff coming out. Their reputation precedes them then because of the stuff with Trump, even prior to the raid. All the stuff they've done and the stuff they didn't do as it relates to Hillary, they've got a bad reputation.
Yeah, and I think candidates are starting to recognize that, and I think we've seen that from, for example, Schmidt has said, hey, about this raid, if we take over, in the fall, we are going to have some questions. There will be some hearings, and you will need to answer some of these questions.
Bill Maher on point. Watch something besides MSNBC, and that guy, I think that is part in all. Watch everything. Know what the other folks are saying and find out, because you will start to see where these national news outlets, where they lie. And we know their point of view already, but I'm talking cold, hard examples of lying. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's one Miss Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
It's producer Hannah.
What up?
Brian Houseworth is here. There's Mr. John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. Something we can do for you. Our phone number, by the way, is 874-9390, and that is in the 573 area code. 874-9390, student loan forgiveness, debt forgiveness, $10,000 at certain circumstances. And again, I cannot impress enough just how bad this is on so many levels. Still trying to figure out how it's going to be paid for. Fox's Pete Ducey asking the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, how are we going to pay for it?
Thanks, Karine. About the student loans, how can the country afford such a massive handout?
Yeah, well, Ambassador Rice said that she's happy to have that discussion. I'm happy to have this discussion as well.
If you're happy to have the discussion, then answer the question. Another spoiler alert, she didn't answer the question. She just said, I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to have this conversation. Well, there's your end. There was a much respected journalist just asked you, how are we going to pay for it? Well, I'm happy to have that conversation, but look at all these good things we've done, and they're not good things. So, and I'm thinking, because we do know how it's going to be paid for.
Well, Joe Biden said something about, we're going to pay for it because eventually people will start paying back their loans after January now, because he's extended that. And somebody said, these people haven't had to pay in 3 years. So, we don't have any idea if these people are going to default, if they can pay it back. I mean, banking on the fact that these folks start paying it back and then using some of that money is ridiculous.
And here's why this is so dangerous. Here's the other point that we have been trying to make besides just paying for it. Okay, so these people that they've been given these deferments, now you got to start paying back in January. So there's people that are paying back on their loans, because remember, they signed their name. I, Joe Blank Smith, will pay you back the money. They signed their name. They promised they would do that. Forgiving $10,000. Don't worry about it. So these students that have incurred college debt and are supposed to start payments again after an absence of several years. They're supposed to start doing it in January. Why? Why should I do that? I know they're going to forgive that too. I don't have to have any responsibility, whether you're talking about the student debt forgiveness or crime. Look at where in places like Chicago and San Francisco and Philadelphia, these liberal prosecutors, they're not prosecuting crimes. That is the big message from progressives. You are not responsible for anything you do. It's just like the people who've gone after Trump for J6. Trump didn't do that stuff. He is not responsible. All of these idiotic progressives, don't worry about your responsibility. So why on earth would these people who are supposed to start paying in January, why would they pay when they're paying for people that are getting a break? And why would they pay when they know it'll be forgiven too? Because, see, the people in the White House and these progressives, they don't hold me responsible. That's the mindset. Let's get a different point of view on this. I want to introduce to you Trey Faucheux. Trey Faucheux is with Mizzou College Republicans. He's joining us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning. I want to ask you, Trey, as a college kid, I'm going to assume, and I could be wrong, you might be so smart you didn't have to take out any loans. I'm just I'm stereotyping about you. Since you're a Republican, I'm going to stereotype you're pretty smart. How does this strike you as a college student?
Hi, Brandon. First, thank you so much for having me. I'm completely opposed to this program. I do have student loans. Most of my friends, if not all of them, have student loans. And we all understand. We signed our name. We pay it back. It makes no sense for someone else to pay for something they can never use. Because no one else is using my education. I'm using it.
Well, I'm glad
I will be the one to pay for it.
I'm glad you're using it. So as you and other Republicans with the Mizzou College Republicans have been talking about this, is this the big... Because for me, my point of view, I'm not a college kid. I don't have student debt like you do. But it's bad on so many levels. Premise. It teaches, I think it's teaching people again, you don't have to be responsible for what you do. Man, we know you promised and signed your name. So there's that. And then how do we pay for it? What are you guys saying within Mizzou College Republicans why this is a bad idea?
Well, number one, it doesn't really address the primary issue. Honestly, and this is just my personal belief, this is just Biden appealing to his base. There are 13% of people in America who hold graduate degrees, and yet they hold over half of the student debt in this country. I think that they vote overwhelmingly Democrat, and so this is Biden trying to shore up support for a primary challenge in 2024. It does nothing to address the rising cost of education that we are seeing across the country at a time when we also have historically high inflation. This is just him slapping a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
Very nice. And that's that you talk about historic inflation. How old are you, Trey?
I'm 20.
20. So you, like producer Hannah, who is 22, like Stephanie Bell, who is, we just celebrated her 29th birthday for the 7th time. There's three of you. I'm hanging out with three of you right now that you've never seen anything like this in your life. Our guest, Trey Faucheux, Mizzou College Republicans. Let me ask you this. Do you have opportunities, without being brusque and without cramming it down people's throats? You're on the campus. They're at Mizzou. Do you have opportunities to talk to some of these other kids that are out celebrating? Oh, look, I'm getting this loan for giving up to $10,000. Do you have opportunity to have conversations with these kids? If so, what are you saying to them? The people that are in favor of this.
Yeah, Mizzou's campus is really amazing when it comes to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, even on conservative voices. We table weekly in Speaker Circle, one of the only places in Missouri where anyone can speak publicly without a permit. And we actually go out there weekly, and we're talking to students, and some of them have been supporting this, acting like it might as well be the second coming of our Lord and Savior. And it's a little crazy.
Nice, Trey. Good work.
We have to talk about how it's really not all that great when it doesn't solve anything in the long term.
For young folks on campuses, how big is the abortion issue? Is there a lot of conversation around that on campus?
Yeah, that's a big one. The abortion issue, we have a conservative-leaning organization here on campus called Students for Life, and they tend to be the ones leading the charge on the pro-life side. They're an amazing group. I can't say enough good things about them. We get a lot of pushback in the community from that one, because that's just a very big issue. But it really does come back to, as Branden was saying, oh, you don't have to be responsible. We'll take care of it.
Yep, it's a poor mindset, man. Excited. We are chatting with Trey Faucheux. He is with Mizzou College Republicans. He's hanging out with us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, I think that is a very big concern. We don't know who's going to end up footing the bill, really, because they won't tell us who's paying for it, really. But it reminds me of the omnibus/infrastructure bill that happened a while ago with $1 billion $1 billion benefit, but a $0 price tag. That's not exactly how the system works. And I don't think Democrats really understand that.
All right. Trey, are you, there's another question or two I'd like to ask you. If we put you on hold for a few minutes, can you hang out with us some more?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. We'll continue our conversation. I'm fascinated by this. His name is Trey Faucheux. He is with Mizzou College Republicans, talking about his take regarding student debt forgiveness. By the way, then coming up after 8 o'clock, Jefferson City Councilman Scott
We've held several different sessions on campus to help them understand the grieving process and what's going on here in this situation, in tragic situations. That will continue here.
That's Joe Parisi with Central Missouri University talking to ABC 17 following the shooting death last week of a guy who was a football player. They did something really cool there prior to Saturday's football game. They went and they honored the kid, saying, hey, we're helping our students. We're making folks available if they need to talk. Right now, we are on Mizzou campus hanging out with Trey Faucheux. He is with Mizzou College Republicans reacting to student debt forgiveness. And it's interesting. We think a unique perspective that I hope you'll tell your friends about today. Hey, I was listening to Stephanie and Branden and Hannah and Marsh and everybody on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning, and they had a kid, a young man, I should say, in college with the Mizzou College Republicans speaking out vehemently against the student debt forgiveness. Bad on so many levels. This guy gets it. And you say you guys have opportunity to speak on campus, speaker circle. What is your reception like on campus? Because I know there's, all those stereotypes, and we use them because they work a lot of times. Sometimes they don't. But are you guys generally treated pretty well on campus, even though you're Republicans, even though you're smart people, even though you're conservatives? How's your reception on campus?
Well, yeah, Branden, I think it's almost a misconception, at least at Mizzou, that conservatives are not welcome. I think we are. Because college is a place where we are supposed to take the ideas that we hold and trust as the law, and we challenge them. So I think college is where a lot of people end up finding the conservative side of politics and actually start to embrace it. So I think it's a little misleading, honestly, what a lot of the media say.
Well, good. And that's why I asked, because I can sit here and say all I want. Like I said, I go back to the stereotypes. We use them because they work, but not every time. As a matter of fact, producer Hannah is sitting right here with me, 22-year-old college grad at Mizzou. We met producer Hannah when she was 15, 16 years old, listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri in her classroom at Centralia High School. She was supposed to be doing schoolwork.
Quit calling me out, man.
And she was listening on the app to Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Again, beats the stereotypes. Don't always work. And I am glad that you shared that. I think those kinds of things are important to know. And before we let you go, I got to tell you, I love the spelling of your last name, Trey Faucheux. It's got the...
I know where this is headed.
So, again, my smart friend Hannah, the last name is spelled Faucheux. And earlier this morning, hey, Trey Faucheux is going to be on the show. And Hannah says, are you sure that's how it's pronounced? And I confidently said...
Yes, and you pulled your phone out to show me that you were correct.
I talked to this guy. I even got the enunciation from him personally, and I was wrong. But I got to tell you this. I like Faucheux better because, like Trey Faucheux, it's got attitude. You like that? No. All right. Hey, listen, you got to come back on the show. We got to make this.
Not after that. You just ticked him off.
Trey, we got to get you back in here, maybe even on somewhat of a semi-regular basis, if that is something that you would be interested in doing. And I'll put you on the spot and ask you here while we got you on the show. You want to come back real soon?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
All right. Maybe next time you'll come in studio?
I hope so.
All right. Very cool, man. Hey, thank you for your time. And get to class.
Thank you so much.
All right, man. I appreciate these kids getting out and getting active and doing something. There's another kid. His name is Alan Leslie, and he goes to the Columbia Pachyderm meetings on Fridays, and he was there, and he even said to the other Pachyderm meetings, hey, these Mizzou College Republicans could use some support. Coming up a little bit after 8 o'clock, some of the biggest challenges facing some of us here in Mid-Missouri. Jefferson City Councilman Scott Spencer is going to be joining us.
Can you say whether that was right or right or wrong? Do you believe it was right for the president to take those documents to Mar-a-Lago?
He should have turned the documents over and apparently had turned a number of documents over. George, what I wonder about is why this could go on for almost 2 years and less than 100 days before the election. Suddenly we're talking about this rather than the economy or inflation or even the student loan program you and I were going to talk about today.
Well,
George Stephanopoulos, who does not often get tripped up or stumble over his words, getting tripped up and stumbling over his words there. That's our Senator Roy Blunt, outgoing Senator Roy Blunt, talking about George really pushed him on the Trump Mar-a-Lago, the documents, redacted statements, all that good stuff. And Senator Blunt was happy to answer the first question. As a matter of fact, with his response, Stephanopoulos surprisingly agreed with the senator, but then he kept going. And a little background info, a lot of times when you go on those national shows, depending on the venue, the format, but you get 3 minutes, sometimes 5. Sunday mornings, you get a little bit more time. So you answer a question like that. You're a sitting U.S. senator. You answer a question like that. But then George kept pushing and pushing, and I love that because then Roy says, well, you called me here to talk about this. It's reminiscent of, remember that time we had, Dick Morris on the show and John
And it didn't go as expected.
John Marsh, who won the week by reminding him, hey, you're a great pollster, but you buffed 2012. Then, of course, Dick Moore, the hurricane that screwed everything up. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Brian Houseworth is here.
Good morning, and I would point out, too, that anytime they go on a show like that, Meet the Press or Face the Nation or that, they will give them the topics ahead of time. The topics are given, not the specific questions. It almost sounded like he wasn't expecting that. That's how, because they always tell him the topics.
That's what we call getting sucker punched. Out of politeness and out of professional courtesy, you tell your guests, this is what we are going to talk about, and then you stick with that.
Yeah, that's how it works.
There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert. There's Mr. John Marsh. All right. Everybody's got their hands raised, and let's proceed. Let's bring in Jefferson City Councilman Scott Spencer. Scott, good to see you here on the show. No sucker punches. I'm not going to surprise you, ask you any outlandish questions. I don't think, and if I do, it's accidental. But let's start here. Your point of view. Biggest issue right now facing a lot of us mid-Missourians, whether it's Jefferson City or collectively our community as a whole.
So you mentioned abandoned buildings. I did a lot of work there in downtown, and I assume maybe you're referencing some of those buildings on Capitol Avenue. Are those the ones you're talking about? And I know for a while the city was engaged in quite a bit of litigation regarding the abandoned building issue. Can you give us an update?
Councilman, if I could follow up on Stephanie's question, your point is well taken about those homes on East Capitol. I would also point out where there are thousands of people that come into Jefferson City to take tours at the old MSP. You also have the huge redevelopment going on in that area. And then down the road, you've got the federal courthouse. And yet, as all these tourists come in, many of them from out of town, they drive by these homes that are literally falling down on East Capitol Avenue. And it just seems to be dragging on and on and on. And we had the tornado, several of them after they were in bad shape before that. Several of them got hit. What is taking so long? I just don't understand it. Yep.
And Scott, I was wondering, so I know there's talk, and this is MoDOT's idea, by the way. I know Missouri Department of Transportation, they're looking for feedback from us about a potential bus service between Columbia and Jefferson City. Offhand, and not just as a city councilman in Jefferson City, but I'm wondering just, as a resident and as somebody who is a community leader, do you think there's some viability to that, how it benefit folks in between the two cities? Yeah, because that's kind of what I'm wondering. I'm like, okay, dude, and I have a car. For me personally, and that's kind of why I ask, and it is somebody, because you are also a private citizen, but you're also in a leadership role, and without going through the nuts and bolts of MoDOT getting comments from us, as I sit here and think about it, I'm like, I don't know. Is that a viable thing? Maybe on weekends for football games. Sure would love to have seen a couple hundred folks going to the hockey game there in Jefferson City Saturday night. That would have been cool. Our guest, Scott Spencer, Jefferson City Councilman, kind of talking about some of the biggest issues facing us here in mid-Missouri this morning. All right, Scott Spencer, City Councilman, Jefferson City. Man, thanks for joining us this morning. Really good sitting here and chatting with you. Anything else that you would like to add to be of service before we let you go? I think you look good today. Scott Spencer, City Councilman, Jefferson City. Thank you for joining us. Before we move forward, because I do want to get into the Morning Bell with Stephanie Bell, something that the City Councilman was talking about, and we highlighted this on the show. Mayor Carrie Turgeon had recently said, and this was actually, I think it was a budget meeting, but to give you an idea, when we talk about inflation, that is at a point that producer Hannah has never seen in her lifetime. Stephanie Bell has never seen in her lifetime. These things didn't happen since the tragic events of January the 20th, 2021. Carrie Turgeon, mayor of Jefferson City, brought up how it's affecting them as a city.
I want to emphasize, like I said before, it's not a typical budget year, experiencing things like a recession, inflation at a 40-year high, and coming off of CARES funding for training.
So, it does all of these things. It affects everything. Coming up, we're going to do the Morning Bell like 5 minutes from now. Business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. What can we look forward to this morning?
You know, we have all these screens, and I've been waiting and waiting. I don't think it's a
Good morning, 8:26. Time for the Morning Bell with Stephanie Bell. Business news, and it's got that little twist that only Stephanie can give you.
I've been watching for the countdown on these screens here, and I had to check it out, but apparently there is no Artemis launch this morning. Now, for those Greek mythology folks, Artemis, of course, is the sister of Apollo, and this new Artemis program, they were going to launch it, but it was not going to be with people. Did you hear there's like 3 test crash dummies in there?
Any of them Joe by chance? Just asking.
No, they've got fun names, but 2 of them were like more modeled after women because Artemis is supposed to put the first woman on the moon. So there's like 3 stages, and by 2025, we were actually going to put some people up there. But first go around this morning, apparently there's like a couple of leaks, some other stuff going on. So yeah, not exactly what you want to see when you're like, blasting things into space.
To Hannah's point, when she said, ugh, I was the same way this morning. So a couple of times overnight, first they had lightning, so they had to stop with the fueling, and then there were pressure problems, and I'd be like, I think even as a dummy, I'd be like, yeah, no thanks. I don't need to be shot to the moon if you're having issues, and we haven't even gotten off the ground yet.
Bad vibe. So yeah, fuel leaks and a possible crack is what they're saying. And so I think they said it'll be later this week before they try again. But not a good look on day one for the space program.
And as what they're doing is like NASA and I guess private entities, they're trying to show, hey, listen, so this is a start. We're going to take people to the moon and be able to stay there for a few days. This guy's name, he's a NASA engineer. His name is Chandler Sherman.
It's, I think, going to be sooner than a lot of folks are going to realize. We're looking forward with great anticipation to this day. But this Artemis 1 flight, again, is the proving ground to establish that capability.
Well, if it's the proving ground right now, we're 0 for 1.
Not good. So the mannequins' names are Moonikin, Zohar, and Helga.
Moonikin?
Helga, because it's going to measure how space radiation affects a woman's body. So 2 of the mannequins are women, I think.
And then don't they have like a stuffed Snoopy on there or something too?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I just want to know how much they're going to sell the space mannequins when they come back. I think they should, auction them off. Wouldn't that be cool? Have a mannequin in your house, be like, this guy's been to the moon.
And back. Coming up here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, I am Branden Rathert. Coming up, it's pretty cool. Cardinals continue to roll. Yesterday, Adam Wainwright, he was mic'd up, and it was during he was getting warmed up for the game. Had something really interesting to say, and I'm glad we've got this on mic. Hear that coming up about 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Integrity. It's time to listen, make no mistake. She'll listen to the people of the show me state. It's the right time. She's the right choice with a caring heart. She's a brand new voice.
Make it stop.
For all to see. Show me Missouri, show me Trudy.
Show me Trudy. That's the campaign song for Trudy Bush Valentine.
She said campaign anthem.
Anthem.
When I think of anthem, that is not the vibe I'm going for.
I don't envision all three of her supporters standing up, pledging allegiance to the anthem of Trudy Bush Valentine. And I love what she said on Twitter. I don't know which is worse, the song.
Show me Missouri, show me Trudy.
That or what she said about her own song on Twitter.
Yeah, she basically said, well, this isn't the song of the summer yet, but here's my campaign anthem. And it's, bad.
Can you imagine listening to this song and going, yeah, this is a good idea?
I wasn't going to vote for you, but now I am. As soon as I finish my oatmeal, because I don't know why I think of oatmeal when I hear that song.
It kind of reminds me of and again, it is interesting. I mean, certainly it's something we're talking about, but it kind of reminds me of something you would have heard maybe in 1976. Kind of an old school. But she is taking an interesting approach. And an interesting approach to the campaign.
You're
no doubt.
so polite. You really are. Yeah.
It reminds me of the kind of music you could overlay of all the Joe Biden weird things he's done, and the falling and the turning around and the shaking hands with the air, and you could lay that song over it as kind of like this goofy, hokey Joe Biden thing.
Did you happen to see the video on Twitter of Biden, and it's Jill manhandling him to put him in the spot that he was supposed to be in? She literally grabs both of his shoulders, scoots him over a few feet, and then she walks away.
But, John, doesn't your wife do the same to you? I mean, aren't we all guided by our women like that? Don't you do that to Mr. Bell here?
Sometimes.
Do this next. Do this next. So I haven't seen it, but, yeah, I've seen it. You can totally see, what am I supposed to do now, Jill? What am I supposed to do? His son, by the way, I can't remember who it is, if it's Breitbart that's producing the film, but they've put out a movie. I don't know if anybody's heard about this. It's called My Son Hunter. We have some of the trailer.
I remember getting paid some money, but I can't remember what for. Well, my dad says we never discuss my businesses, period. Or my cut.
What's happening in there? Joe's in on it.
Going over! Like you need $1 billion.
So the obvious next question is,
where's Hunter?
Where's Hunter? The movie is My Son Hunter, put on by Breitbart. Obviously, there is a slant to it, but I don't see any slant in the truth. Remember all these news outlets? Again, and Mark Zuckerberg talked about this in an interview last week. He said, listen, the FBI came to me, and they said, hey, there's some stuff on Hunter. Now, the FBI, who, by the way, can they afford to buy a vowel at this point with as many problems, really, that they have all the stuff about Trump and then Peter Strzok? Peter Strzok, he was an FBI agent, maybe Secret Service agent. I can't remember which one, but he was sending out texts that were talking about Trump. And it's like, wait, you're part of this investigation and you're doing this? MSNBC has hired him to come on and give thoughts and opinions on this whole thing regarding the raid. That's just insane. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, he said, yeah, the FBI came to me and they said, hey, this false stuff coming out, probably not true. FBI said, well, we commonly do that whenever we think there's going to be an information dump. Mark Zuckerberg here.
The FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, you should be on high alert. There was we thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. I mean, it sucks. Yeah.
So he's saying, be vigilant. And of course, remember, all these news outlets either, number one, wouldn't pick it up or said, well, it's just not true. And New York Post, Twitter was squashing New York, because really it was the New York Post that was really putting this stuff out there about Hunter Biden. And then these other news outlets, they didn't do anything with it. And it's about the election. Listen, so you know, this is not that Hunter Biden was hanging out with hookers and snorting cocaine off their backs or doing whatever it was. It's not about that. It's about him and his dad knowing, but apparently about him using his dad's name to benefit. The guy who's now the president of the United States. That's insane. Welcome into the show. Let's wake up mid-Missouri. Mr. Marsh is here. Producer Hannah is there.
Good morning.
There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Brian Houseworth is
It's good
here.
to see you, sir. Had a good time getting to talk to John Cleek at the ALS walk on Saturday. Very emotional, I will tell you that. It was a really just hard to see, but it was very emotional and a big turnout. So
John Cleek Jr. So John Cleek was Mr. Tiger. There was a big fundraiser this weekend. And John, how about 700 people at that hockey game Saturday night for like first responders? I was shocked. 700 people.
I'm just wondering why John Marsh wasn't on the ice for Guns N' Hoses.
Sometimes he can barely walk, much less ice skate. You know, we kid. Ashland Rodeo this weekend. How cool was that?
Huge turnout. So good.
Man, it was trying to come home from Centralia. We were headed to Jeff City on, southbound 63. We had to come to a complete stop multiple times because there were that many people trying to exit to go into Ashland for that rodeo. It was crazy.
They actually sold it out on Saturday night and were turning people away. It was so full. I mean, the seats, we got there early and the seats were just packed, and then people were just standing room only.
Do they do, you know how they could, and not that they need to enhance it, they've been doing that for a lot of years, and they've always done great work, and apparently this year, after an absence of several years, just remarkable. But, like, couldn't they do, did they do a bull riding only event? They have any of those events?
It's like bucking horses and roping and all sorts of different
Did they
stuff.
have any bull riding?
I don't think so.
Running of the bulls through the streets of Ashland, Missouri.
No.
Just a thought. I'm just throwing ideas out there, John.
No. There was a professional rodeo clown, and on Saturday night they had a little thing for kids, so the kids could kind of like ride like a fake bull, and they could sit on a horse. It was so sweet.
The one is back when I was a country DJ. I was working in Southern Illinois, and back in the 90s, it was the thing. You would take an old warehouse and you would turn it into a country line dancing club.
Those are coming back. Those are seriously making a comeback.
Really?
Yeah, big country line dancing clubs, yeah.
And you would go like at 8 o'clock, and they'd give you the free line dance lessons. And then I always thought dance was an artistic expression of oneself, but not with country line dancing. You do the same thing everybody else is doing. But I did it because that was my job. And then you get the free lessons at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, they'd open up and you dance. We had a place in Southern Illinois. It was called the Midnight Rodeo, and it was an old warehouse. They turned into this massive country club out in the middle of nowhere, Southern Illinois, and that thing had 1,000 people every weekend. And one weekend they had a riding bull, and so I get on there. Thanks, Steph. And I'll get up there and I'll do it, and I'm on the thing for I did the 8 seconds, and I get off and there's a couple people cheering, and all of a sudden, man, I got some, because I'm a pretty shy and timid guy by nature. All of a sudden I got some swagger, and I get off that bull and I go and I put my cowboy hat back on, and I asked the dude running it, I'm like, how high did I have that thing? He said 4. I said, like on a scale of 1 to 5, a scale of 1 to 12. Didn't do so well. I do want to get to Adam Wainwright was mic'd up yesterday. By the way, in the Cardinals, 2 of 3 this weekend, 6 games in first place. And not only did they take 2 of 3, but they beat a very, very good Atlanta Braves baseball team that won the World Series last year, a team very likely we could face in the playoffs. So they took 2 of 3 from the Braves. That's kind of a big deal for where we are right now in the season. Adam Wainwright, he's warming up for the ballgame. And they had him mic'd up. And this guy is throwing pitches, and he's doing an interview. like as he's warming up back in the bullpen there at Busch Stadium. And I want to highlight some things he said. Maybe we'll have to do it in leftovers here in a few minutes. But I want to mention this. We were talking about MoDOT is taking public comments regarding a potential bus line. So they're looking at the possibility, MoDOT is, between with bus service between Columbia and Jefferson City. According to reporting from KOMU Channel 8, as part of a statewide effort to improve connectivity between modes of transportation, Missouri Department of Transportation asking for feedback for a potential bus service between Columbia and Jefferson City. So I don't know what that would look like, don't know what it would entail. They're just looking for comments. And people have been sending us comments already. Chris, via text, 874-9390 says, Columbia has a bunch of buses that no one uses, so I think we could use those for this Missouri Department of Transportation experiment. He's accurate. These buses, listen, I've never been on one of the city buses, and I should because I'm paying for them. People don't have to pay to ride the city buses. I'm paying for them. I should go ride one once in a while. So Chris is on point there. Sean, check this out, man. Guns blazing from Sean. He says Jefferson City brought in enough taxes through the pandemic. They had trouble qualifying for the federal money. We spend our taxes like drunken sailors. Our budget should be named the Southwest Chief. Southwest Chief was that train that derailed earlier this summer in the northern part of the state. Man,
there was a big debate over the property tax rate. You know, should they keep it the same or should they lower it? And they ultimately decided let's keep it stable because we kind of don't know what's going on. But there were a lot of people that wanted them to go ahead and lower it.
Coming up about 5 minutes from now, we'll go ahead. We're going to open up the fridge. Something we like to do most days when we remember. You know how you open up your refrigerator at home? Maybe it's late at night or it's late in the week. You haven't been grocery shopping. You open up the fridge, want to get some leftovers. You don't know what's in there. It's kind of the same thing here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and kind of something really cool
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
All right, some of the things we didn't get time to get to because we were running behind on the show this morning. And when I say we, I mean
you.
Running behind. Getting excited. This is my dad's favorite part of the day. He starts getting online and, oh, gosh, I can start to listen to the Gary Nolan Show. He's coming up just minutes from now here on the radio station. Do want to remind you, can go to our websites, 939theeagle.com and KWOS for information on our Tiger tailgates, all kinds of places that you can go. And here's the deal, man. You pick up free passes. You can go to places like Fringe Western Wear in Columbia, Big Whiskey's in Jefferson City. You can also go to Casper 66 in Lynn, and you get these passes, and they're free. You just go in, and you just ask for them, and we'll have them there for you. And then you come join us a couple of hours prior to the game Thursday night, and you get free food, you get free drink, all that cool stuff, completely free. And we do it every single home game this year. Usually we put them out like by lunchtime, I think on Wednesday. Since it is a Thursday night primetime game, hopefully we'll sneak them out there a little bit earlier.
Thank goodness. I'm still really bummed I didn't get my $10,000 in loan forgiveness, so at least I can get a drink and some good food before the game.
Way to drown your sorrows and a bunch of good food and a couple of drinks. What do you got for leftovers, Steph?
Well, from the morning bell, we talked about how the space launch didn't go this morning, and I forgot. Do you know who is in charge of that stuff? So Vice President Harris is technically, she's like the chairwoman of the National Space Council, and so she and her husband actually flew down there for the launch, and this was supposed to be one of her things where she could actually be like, see, I'm the chair of the National Space Council, and look at all the cool stuff we're doing. So are we now surprised that we had a problem today with her at the helm?
Good catch. By the way, so now there are more and more illegal immigrants going to New York City and Washington, D.C., and they're living, and I want to, one of the quotes from some official in New York City was, our resources are getting stretched thin, we can't handle this. Guess what's happening in the border states, you jackass?
Really?
Oh, my God. These people, I don't like to call people names, so these people are acting in a very stupid fashion. They don't get it.
Some people have like the Midas touch, like everything they touch is good, and it seems like Harris, it's like whether she's in charge of the border or the space program, you're doomed.
The Midas touch, everything you touch turns to gold. And then there's the exact polar opposite, and that is the vice president of our United States of America. Another thing we didn't get to, there's a Euphoria, hot TV show on HBO. There's an actress on there, threw a party for her mom. People were wearing red hats that said, make 60 great again. Like we got Stephanie some hats that said, make 29 great again for her birthday.
Mm-hmm.
She posted the pictures on Twitter. People flipped out because they looked like Trump Make America Great Again hats.
Ridiculous.
Adam Wainwright, retiring this year. Just what a remark. Man, I hope, seriously, between Pujols, Molina, Wainwright all retiring this year, let's hope the boys can do something this year. Adam Wainwright mic'd up prior to the Cardinals and Braves last night. He's in the bullpen warming up. And so he's talking, kind of being interviewed. But I thought what he said, I thought this was really cool. He talks about, kind of what's in your head being your reality. And you've got positive stuff in there, man. You can make things happen.
A routine, it's great as long as it doesn't become superstition. If you're out there thinking you got to do exactly the same thing every time to have success, then that's making you a weaker competitor. If they told me right now that I had 8 pitches to get loose, I could do that. Because you are what your brain tells you are.
I love that. You are what your brain tells you are. Unless I'm going, you idiot, Branden. Like when you make a mistake, oh, Branden, you idiot, you moron. And I do that a lot.
I'm a big believer in manifesting and positive affirmations.
Yeah, and I love that Adam Wainwright, while tossing warm-up, by the way, is, oh, yeah, what's in your head? That manifest. And I absolutely believe in that. And I hope that's something that we can all